Beards and Flicks, baby.
Okay, guys, welcome back to Beards and Flicks. My name is Brad Johnson. I am joined today with Mikey D,
AKA Justice League.
Justice League. Michael the Mike.
Michael the Mike, Money Mike, Icy Mike. There's so many other ones. Cool Breeze. Cool. Yeah, man. Shorty. Yeah.
Nice. We're also joined today with Uriah Johnson, my long-lost brother from another mother.
That's right, yeah.
We are talking today...
His family owned my family back in the day.
Okay, here we go.
Well, that's the joke I always say.
Black History Month.
Hashtag Black History Month. Everybody's...
The funny thing about that is it's probably, like, somehow true.
Maybe, somehow.
Yeah, if you go back, eons, I don't know. We skipped last week to do a post only for the week, and we're back with a recording today. And we're joined today with Uriah Johnson, and we're talking about Hidden Figures. Yeah, there's ice on the roads. It's 27 degrees outside.
I thought I was gonna die driving in last night because the road that I take to get here is like the less traveled road at night, okay. And of course at night it gets colder, so whatever's on the road freezes.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of moments, like maybe the first 30 minutes into my trip, where I was like, "Oh, this is a lot more ice than I thought there was gonna be." So. It worked out. I just stayed close to the cars in front of me, so if there was any issues, I could just use them as my buffer. Yeah,
that's how it works.
Yeah, I told this story before about how I almost died. Yeah. We were doing a Play in My Heart where I actually tested the bridge.
Went to the girl's house. And,
that was like a cry for help together relationship actually.
Oh yeah.
But it worked out.
Yeah, because she was like, "You want to stay?" and you're like, "No." Nah,
yeah, she was gonna trap me. I was gonna wake up to like misery, and it was. But anyway. Yeah. So once I get like through the roughest area of the drive, I'm just thinking to myself, like I do on the road, and have you guys ever pulled an April Fool's joke on somebody and it backfired, but you just went with the outcome?
No, it's never happened to me.
Really? You?
Oh man, not that I can think of.
I'll go ahead and divulge real quick then. So a few years ago when I was in college, I was in some communications class. We were in there's a group project thing. And everybody in my group was like the slacker. So obviously our presentation was the worst. One person didn't even show up. One person wasn't prepared at all. Anyway, like 6 months later, I messaged her on April Fool's Day because a coworker said you should text her that you have a crush on her. So I messaged her and I said, "Hey, I've got a crush on you." Just as a joke, right? Because I didn't really have a crush. And she texted back right away, "Oh, that's sweet, but, I think we should just remain friends." So she took it serious on April Fool's Day. I'm thinking I never would have taken it serious on April Fool's Day. And I was like, you know what, that kind of backfires. That wasn't the response I was looking for. She didn't go along with it. She thought it was for real. So if I ever saw her again, it would be awkward because she thinks that I really have a crush and I don't.
How long ago was this?
I was like 10 years. So, she's in Germany now, I think. Don't ask me how I know.
Thanks, Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook stalked her.
Actually, it was Twitter.
Twitter.
Okay.
Twitter.
Back when I was on Twitter like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I found it on TikTok last week.
Yeah.
So it's a nice, crisp, cold day outside.
Yeah.
Like, it's not windy, so I can deal with the cold when it's not like that, gushing, blowing wind on there.
So I picked him up for this episode. And as soon as he gets in, I'm trying to cater to him, so I put the heat on because I don't use the heat hardly at all. And 5 minutes
you're always wearing a hoodie.
Yes, that's all I need.
Yeah.
I have enough body. I'm like Superman. I get my powers from the sun. And 5 minutes into the ride, he's like, bro, he flips the switch to keep the heat off. And I was like, "Oh, bro, you hot?" He's like, "Yeah, you can turn all that off. I'm good." I was like, "Good," because I hate the heat too.
Yeah.
So it was a very nice.
I kind of run hot. Do you guys run hot?
Always.
I'm just one of those people that once my body kind of adjusts, especially this time of the year, I don't want the heat on.
Yeah.
Just and even with the heat, even now, in my apartment, I have the heat on, but it's only at 50-something degrees.
50?
Wait, fam, the heat's never coming on at 50.
Yeah.
But
is it actually running?
The heat's running. Okay. Yeah, it's just I don't have it run at night.
Yeah.
I don't like the heat on me at night.
Yeah, same way.
Because that's how I get. Over years, I realized that's how I got stuffy and all that.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing that. A, because it saves money, but B,
also that.
But you got to learn that, as my dad taught us, to den up.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
I'm the one that has the heat on and a fan on me also.
No, that's yeah.
That's how you
Am I
get sick,
psychotic?
bro.
Is that what that means?
That's why you really got COVID. That's why you got COVID right there. Yeah.
It's just that weird. That's where that's how COVID was created.
Mixture of temperatures.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, it's like an El Nino effect to your body.
In my apartment.
Yeah, in your apartment. I think that's the right
Isolated
meteorological.
El Nino.
I think that's the right meteorological term. Hell, I don't know.
I have a real question because we were talking about how you said you asked if we run hot and this and that. I was gonna say I'm always in heat. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, I don't know. I thought that was like a woman term.
No,
like,
you're saying it right. You're using it correctly.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're lying to me. No.
You should put that on your on your Tinder.
That's my bio.
That's your bio.
Mike Davis, podcaster, visionary, always in heat.
Oh man.
Oh,
That needs to
that's
be on a
great.
T-shirt or a bumper sticker.
Word, it should be.
Mike Davis, always in heat.
Always in heat. I probably get propositioned so often.
Yeah.
So maybe not.
Well, it's Black History Month. We are continuing to celebrate that with this movie we're talking about today called Hidden Figures. Did you see it when it came out?
No, I saw it shortly after the like DVD release or
Okay.
video release,
So,
whatever.
and within the year of release or so.
Yeah, because it came out in 17, like at the top of 2017,
Okay.
and I saw it like 2018.
Okay. What about you?
You said Hidden Figures, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
What did you think I said? What did you watch this morning?
Bro,
I didn't watch Hidden Figures.
wait. We just
I watched House Party instead.
He's lying. That's his joke. You've been making fun of House Party for how many years?
really have you?
Have I?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I made fun of House Party.
You did not watch
That's a cultural landmark.
Which one? One,
I mean, this House
Two,
Party, what you know?
3.
I didn't want.
Hold on. 4.
Which one stars Batman? Which one stars Immature?
Oh
Yeah.
no, we're not even.
I actually have all those. I have those on DVD.
You can burn your laughing, bro.
No, I did. I watched it for the. I think I told him the other day when you had told me that it was Hidden Figures that I had it on Blu-ray.
Oh, cool.
And I've had it on Blu-ray for like years, and had never opened it.
Never opened it.
And I didn't even open it
I
this
have
morning.
so many Blu-rays like that.
Me too.
And I didn't even open it this morning to watch it. I just watched it on my.
Well, it's on Disney Plus.
I just watched it on
Yeah.
Disney Plus on
Okay.
my tablet.
I watched it Wednesday night for the first time this past Wednesday, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't really know much about it. I don't remember seeing the trailer. I remember being aware of it, but not like really knowing the plot.
I remember obviously because I think at that time Katherine Johnson was still alive. I think she's since passed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she's good.
But so that was 2016 when it came out. I remember her. I think around the time the movie came out, she was kind of I think President Obama like awarded her with like the Medal of Freedom.
Medal of Freedom, yeah.
And there I think she was starting to get her due around that time. But so I remember when the movie came out. I remember when I was probably in Target. And I think it was like Black Friday, and it was like $10 for like the Blu-ray set, and I was like, yoink.
There you go.
Nice.
But then like it probably has been sitting in the same spot for like 3 years.
Yeah.
In my apartment.
So one of the reasons, I guess just for listeners' sake, that we have you on for this is if anybody knows you, you are biracial, you are black, and you are white. And is there anything else? Is it just black and white?
Just black and white.
Okay,
Have you
so
done like 23andMe or anything like that?
No, but I would say, my sister has a pretty extensive, doing pretty extensive research on the family tree and stuff like that. So obviously she can go back and look, on my father's side of the family, which is my black side, back, 150, 170 years plus. My family was kind of been in this area on my dad's side for, a long time. My mother pretty much comes from either most of the family are all German Lutherans going back, even to like pretty much to the Reformation on her mother's side, and on her father's side, England. Which it's a very interesting thing. It makes sense of me growing up Lutheran and now being Episcopalian. So I got a family history to that helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done that. I would say for a couple of years I didn't do it this year and I didn't do it last year, but for like 3 years, I kind of had like an impromptu like Black History Month movie festival in my apartment because I realized like, especially growing up around here that many of my friends were just really just not, there's like a divide.
Yeah.
And it's not like not necessarily a bad thing. It's just culturally there's a divide in terms of the things that I watched and the things that I enjoyed and stories that I remember hearing and being told when I was a kid. And obviously being aware of some of the other more mainstream movies on there, but my friends not understanding those stories. So, I mean, this is a nice one because it's kind of a, I guess you could say biographical. I guess is that a right term?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a biography.
So it's so I mean, it's a true story. This is based off historical events. A lot of the movies that I've shown are not. They're Crooklyn or A Soldier Story.
Right.
Those are kind of some of the ones that I've shown to people. Not House Party, but what was the other Kid and Play movie? Class Act.
Class Act, yeah.
That's a classic right there.
is.
It's a terrible movie, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So it's not the height of cinema. So so I appreciate you guys.
Well, I was just curious because I don't know very many biracial people.
Yeah.
But being biracial is a much more common thing now in 2021 than it was 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah. Even 20 years ago, growing up,
Right.
it's younger, people who are younger than I am, but even people my age, especially growing up in freaking Bullard, Texas.
Yeah.
It was an anomaly. I did have one other in my class. I did have one other biracial, half black, half white classmate. But he didn't have both parents and that was kind of just a different situation. So, but yeah.
Well, what I wanted to ask was because you're biracial, you grew up in Bullard. Did you get any racism on like both sides, like white and black?
No, I would say pretty much from white people.
Oh, okay.
I would say that that's just my experience from it. I think probably a lot of the issues, if I had any issues with the few black classmates that I had, those weren't based on the fact that I was biracial.
Okay.
I think that was a more. I think that there was differing reasons for that.
What about like just from your family, because you're from a black family and a white family?
So in my lifetime, no. I do know that. I was telling you on the way over here. So when both my parents met in the military, and they've been married since 1983, but they've been together since 1975. And if you look,
great band, by the way, 1975.
And if you look probably at mixed race couples in that time, probably pre the last 20 years or so, most mixed race couples you had they came out of the military.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where if you may have had somebody who was stationed overseas in Korea or in another part of the world and they met a local and they brought her back. But my mother's from Western New York. My father is here in East Texas. And they met at Fort Knox, Kentucky in 1975 when my father was 33 and my mother was 19. So, talk about in 1975, and you're still kind of in the South, you're in Kentucky, even though it's the military, having an older black man and a much younger white woman. So I know that my mother did not have much communication with her parents for about 7 or 8 years after they got together.
Because she was with him, right?
Yeah. And I remember, and this honestly was not a story until about a little over 4 years ago when my grandmother passed away.
Wow.
That at her viewing, it was kind of it was there in New York, and it was kind of an all afternoon event. And at the end of the viewing, my father got up and said something, and he told a story about how, I don't know, this is probably 1981, 1982, so probably about a year or two before he had retired from the military. When he retired in 83, they came back, because he's from here, they came to East Texas. And he had said that he had got a phone call one day, and it was my grandmother. And my grandmother, who I love dearly,
really close with her.
Yeah, as close as someone who could be 1,400 miles away could be. that's why, like, if you know me, I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan. It's my tie to her.
That's cool.
Was because that was just always as a kid and even into my adulthood talking to her about that.
Connection you guys had.
Yeah, because you didn't see her. It wasn't like I could just, go spend a weekend at grandma's. It was, I didn't see her the last 6 years of her life just because life and, happens. But he had said that she had, called him and, she said, for the longest time, we had a problem with this because A, you're too old, because he was a lot older, and you're black.
Right.
Well, duh,
Yeah.
But I think what, he went and said, what he said was that she followed it up by saying, well, that's our daughter. We love her. Yeah. We miss her. Yeah. And if you're who she wants to be with, we have to, honor and respect that. We want you guys a part of my life. So I would say from my mother's side of the family, I've never really noticed that. I think my mother, in a lot of ways, and she'll tell you this, that, I think, that I think she's felt that even though I think most things are jovial between, her and my dad's side of the family, I think that, I think deep down, I don't think she's ever felt fully accepted. Because of
the family,
with on my dad's side, and I think that's her feeling, and I can't base that off anything that I've seen or heard anybody say, but she's been around them a lot longer, known them a lot longer than I have, so I think that she's probably felt that in some ways, but I've never experienced that firsthand.
Okay.
But I would say just on a personal, just people that I've dealt with in terms of defining who I am, it's been pretty much exclusively white people who haven't been comfortable. Me referring to myself as a black male, because I refer to myself as a black male, fully understanding that, that my mother's white and that I, my heritage on that. I don't need anybody explaining that to me. But I think that when everybody, it's always white people who always feel the need that they've needed to explain that to me. Well, you're half white, right? Or no, you really can't be fully upset about that. Or you can really only be like half racist towards that. And a lot of times some of those people are serious and sometimes they say that in jest. I get it.
But it just sounds ignorant.
But it does.
It's completely ignorant.
It does. And it's it can be because it still happens. It doesn't happen as much, but it still does happen occasionally.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, you can really only be like half. Like,
but what's crazy? Like you've heard that pretty much your whole life, so you've had to just kind of become numb to it. So now when you hear just like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. And
you shouldn't have had to deal with that your whole life to get to the point where you're just like, oh, here's another ignorant person.
Yeah.
All these years later still saying this stuff to me.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I think, what I say, the few times I think it's been in jest, I was actually telling the story, I think this was yesterday. This was, I don't know, like a year and a half ago. I can't really remember exactly when, but it was a post about the Confederate flag. Mm-hmm. And, I've made my feelings known for a very long time about how I feel that flag. F it, as I always like to say. I don't know if you guys allow curse words, so I'll keep it.
Dude,
I'll keep it.
Cuss it if you want to.
We're not going to filter anybody on this podcast.
Yeah, but I remember somebody, someone that I went to school with growing up, and someone like I hadn't really had any other than like Facebook, hadn't had any interaction with in person in probably over 15 years. And, it was funny because that's what you kind of get. I've gotten that over the years where I've had people tell me, like, if it's anybody who kind of brings shit up from the past, from like when you were like in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, it's people that you went to school with.
Right.
And because all they really know about you, because they can see Facebook, but all they really know about you is like, maybe if they went to a different school, they dropped out, whatever. All they can really remember you by is by what you were at 12, 13, 14 years old. Which, who the hell wants to have that hung over
who's the same as they were at 12 years old?
Exactly.
Who's the same they were even, y'all are a little bit older than I am, but maybe even like 5 years ago.
Hey, Uriah, it's been good having you on the podcast.
We're not gonna say how much older, but
Hidden Figures, we love it.
speaking of which, Janelle Monae, damn, that girl's. No, I was kidding, but we'll get to that part later. I remember like it was just that thing, and he was like, "Well, you think I'm a racist because I have that flag?" Like, he's like, "My black neighbor doesn't have a problem with it." And I'm like, dude, I'm not calling you anything. I'm not gonna call you a racist.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have like that kind of dialogue on here. Like,
There's certain conversations just like you just know. I guess when you've kind of become educated enough, you're like, I don't need to even entertain this argument that's about to happen.
Yeah.
If I start speaking more to what you're telling me.
Yeah. So all I literally says, I'm just going to go back to my original statement. Fuck that flag.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and I'll say it that time.
Yeah.
Because that's what I said.
We agree.
And
yeah, we do too.
And his response was, "Watch your mouth, Oreo."
Okay, see, then we would have fought. I would have thrown hands.
And then I remember I saw something, like, I think I had went to bed at that point. So, like, I didn't see that part of the thread.
Until later?
Until, like, the next morning.
Okay.
Because this was, like, later in the evening, like, when I had originally posted that.
Yeah.
And I, like, went to bed, and then I got up the next morning, gonna get ready for church or whatever. And go, and it's like, huh?
Wow.
And I don't remember what I said, but I didn't like fly off the handle.
Yeah.
Because I remember like one of my friends goes, "Well, hey, like if it was still out in the air that you weren't a racist, that statement certainly proved it."
You just told on yourself.
Well, I went ahead. Like, I remember he had before I didn't block the guy because I'm not really one. I'll unfriend somebody. I'll unfollow somebody. I'm not really like it. Like I don't know if I've ever actually blocked anybody before. Maybe like one or two people.
I definitely
before.
have.
John Cena has. Have you seen that movie? It's hilarious. Sorry, man.
You blocked him with something specific, right? Yeah, we couldn't see it though.
No, not at all.
That reminds me, y'all should do one of these where you compare The Rock's version of Skyscraper to Anna Nicole Smith's version of Skyscraper.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I don't even know if they're the same damn movie, but like,
I turned on The Rock's Skyscraper and made it about 15 minutes in, and I was like, "This is terrible."
This is terrible. Yeah.
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 I love his movies.
I've never watched it, and I've only watched like maybe 10 or 15 minutes of Anna Nicole Smith's version of Skyscraper.
I haven't seen that.
And it's like, wait a second, all of a sudden you were led in a helicopter, and now you're in this luxurious shower. What?
Yeah.
Post-production.
Yeah. She's a skyscraper.
Rest in
She's
peace.
so tall. Yeah, right.
Rest in
Super
peace. East Texas, one of East Texas's best. What was I saying? Oh, so he had said something. I guess he thought that I was wanting to be like a pastor or something like that, because he did like this really like passive aggressive. He vague booked. I love using that term vague booking,
like
where it's
that.
like, hey, prayers for this like unnecessary thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want people to pray, why don't you just like message people like directly and tell them what's wrong, so they can like, you don't have to be like, hey, I need you all to pray about something that I'm not going to give you any kind of clearance on what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the best comments on those posts are the people that still say, "Well, tell me what's going on."
or they actually say what happened. Like, damn, I'm sorry to hear about Tommy.
Yeah, you're trying to be vague, and they're being specific and ruining your vague.
Yeah. He's aired out everything.
Yeah.
But sorry,
And then
I get sidetracked easily. But later on that evening, I think I unfriended him, and then like later that like evening, he sends me a message, and it was like something about comparing Ulysses S. Grant and like Robert E. Lee or some shit. About like how like like one liked to use the N-word and the other one did. Well, Robert E. Lee like at least freed his slaves. Like I'm like, first off, this was a dude who I don't even think graduated high school, who I know had been, and like, okay, I'm not disparaging, like But this is like a guy that I know is not very bright. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm not going to be, it's just what it is what it is. This is a dude who, he wasn't very bright in middle school, and he's continued to make poor life choices.
The only brightness in him is his skin.
You know, so.
Hey, I like that.
But we, we had a, and I was like, man, first, I have a bachelor's degree in history. So I was like, dude, like, I'm sorry,
That makes
but like.
so much sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is why I sell insurance for a living.
Oh, look at that plug. Look at that plug, though.
Which before that, I sold cable for a living. So, you know, it helps out a lot to have that degree.
History.
Yeah. But I was like, dude, I don't, like, there's nothing you can tell me that I don't know already. Like, I'm not going to have this back and forth. Well, man, I just want to let you know, like, you know, I've always respected you, man. Like, you were always a good guy growing up and all this stuff. And he goes, you know, like, you're, and he's like, I can see you're a good man to this day and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, man, like, I appreciate that. But, like, if you, like, thought I was such a good dude, then why the hell did you think it was necessary to call me Orient?
Yeah.
And this goes back, and this is exactly what he said. And I realized it. He said, well, that's what we called you growing up. That's what we called you in middle school. And that was your nickname that was your nickname.
Thought you were okay with it then?
Exactly. He goes, that was your nickname. He's like, that was your nickname. So he goes, that's just what we all called you. And I was like, man, like, I was like, I didn't want to be called that. Like, I hated it then.
Of course.
And I hate it now.
Yeah.
I was like, it was nothing I really ever wanted to be called.
So he's backpedaling and saying, oh, you were okay with it back then, assuming you were.
Yeah, well, I think it wasn't even the fact that I was okay with it then. I don't think I think he probably thought I was okay with it because I just didn't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Because what the hell am I going to do about it?
You know, you didn't, yeah.
You know, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to fight all these motherfucking people in school and stuff like that and go through hell? Because you know if you're going to start it, it ain't going to work out. No. And the last thing that they wanted was having my dad come to that school because if it was my mom, it was okay. The last thing that the people at Bullard ISD wanted was having Charles Johnson come up there. So I just let it go because I was in a lose situation whatever I did. Yeah. So to make it easier, I just had to take it. Just had to take the bullshit.
But see, he knew what he was doing by saying that name on a public forum.
Yeah.
15 years later.
Yeah, 15 years later.
Yeah, you know,
he knew what he was doing, man.
Yeah, you know,
he was trying to bait you into another argument.
Yeah.
And I just said, man, I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, you know, he's like, well, you know, and he kept going back, oh, man, I respect you, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what, man? I was like, I'll be real. And I was as gracious as I could be to him. I didn't, like, argue with him. And he wasn't argumentative to me. I think, like, I could tell, like, there was some level of contrition to what he was saying. Like, I think I wasn't dealing with someone who was probably outrightfully, like, hateful. I think I was just dealing with someone who was just ignorant and who just isn't and honestly who probably is probably not someone who's capable of much like deep thought than what he's just been like dealing with. Yeah. And so it's like, well, I have this, and if this person doesn't have a problem with it, then why do you have a problem with it? Because that's kind of what his thing was that like, well, like this black guy who doesn't have a problem with it, you're a black guy too. Why do you have a problem with it, black guy? Other black guy. And I was just like, man, if you really respected me the way that you claim that you have respect for me for, I was like, it would take you 5 minutes to research why that's such an offensive symbol to so many people.
Absolutely.
And I get it. There's a history.
For how many years?
For how many? I get it. You don't have to. People tell me, well, it wasn't the actual Confederate battle flag. I fucking know that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay? That doesn't matter. You know, it matters that was the sign that, like, the KKK had, that they came out and they were, you know, burning crosses on people and lynching people and shit. Yeah. But okay, let's get into schematics. Like, the media has told you not to like this thing. Oh, wow. And it's like, no, like, that kind of like thought process, like it insults me when people say that you don't like something only because the media told you not to like them. And it's like, so you're telling me that I have no range of free thought. I was like, you're just saying those, like, that's just me saying, well, you're just saying those things because that's what someone else told you to think. You're not like, it's, like, and I say this, I'm trying not to get too political here, but it's like, that goes around both ways, where it's just like, and Facebook's just not a good, long story short, Facebook's not a good place for discourse. Well, as we can tell from my meme that I made last week that sparked a lot of controversy with one individual.
We're not going there, though.
We're not going to go there this time.
We'll have to talk about this off.
We'll talk about this off the topic.
I just wanted to touch on something that you talked about respect, or the lack of respect. And in this movie, there's a blatant lack of respect, but the racism in it isn't quite as in your face as some of the experiences that you've had and you told us.
Yeah.
It's a lot more undertone, more like talking down to somebody, but not using racial slurs.
It's kind of like the racism that you experience today.
I mean, pretty much, yeah.
It's very subtle.
It's wrapped in condescension.
Yeah.
It's still racism, but it's wrapped in condescension.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious when it happens. You know what it is.
Yeah.
It's not just, I think that was part of the thing. That's a good point. Is you talk about it in the movie as that, it's a PG rated movie, so they're not going around calling people the N-word a lot. Mm-hmm. So because a lot of times when you watch movies that are in that time period, that's kind of what you have and what you experience and everything like that is, like just a blatant, like I said, the Klan and like these abrasive, hickish, dumb rednecks. I keep saying, maybe that's a big.
You're rising to get us both shot.
That's negative. I'm sorry. Those are negative stereotypes towards white people. I can't be using those. I had to learn my lesson from last week. But once again, we'll talk. Kidding. You can cut that out. But that's what you see in those movies, though. Mm-hmm. So it's not me saying that seriously, but that's the kind of and a movie that kind of deals with a lot of these hardships. That's kind of the attitudes you see from the people there. But you don't have that in this movie because this isn't small town Alabama. Right. This is Langley. This is the people that all the white people who are in this movie are incredibly educated, well-to-do, upper middle class white people.
Right.
I wanted to ask. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, good.
I don't want to ask you because you've never seen this movie. There's two characters that I wanted to get your thoughts on before we dive into like the normal stuff at the top.
Okay.
You texted me when you were watching this about Paul.
I texted you the whole time.
Yeah.
He was upsetting me, man.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't just racist.
No.
He was sexist.
Right. Exactly.
And I was like, this guy is an idiot.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for the portrayal because I'm sure it was based on a real person.
Absolutely.
I don't know the history and the specific facts of this story. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that these facts are correct.
Right.
Just because it's a biopic.
Right.
And it's based on history.
So so do you think there's like a difference in the racism from his character Paul and Kirsten Dunst, her character? I can't remember her name.
No,
Mrs. Mitchell.
Mrs. Mitchell.
A minute ago, when we were talking about condescension, that's what she was doing.
Right.
It was racially condescending, and it was man. She played it well. I did not like her character at all. I know that there was some at the end. There was a little bit more of a character development towards how she kind of changed and. She tried to say something smart and that wasn't racist. Yeah. But it was totally racist. Yeah. And I love the retort that
Dorothy.
Are you talking about in the bathroom?
In the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything personal against y'all.
Yeah.
And that's such a trope that you have and that you hear a lot. It's
exactly.
I don't really have anything against you guys. It's just that
you're thinking that statement right there makes up for your racism. Yeah. It does not.
No.
Right.
And you talked about Dorothy's retort.
What she came back with,
back
which
to
was, I like to think you believe that or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Mm-hmm. That's a great conversation.
A great line. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that was especially in the fact that, like the Dorothy and the Mary characters, Octavia Spencer and Janelle, it was Janelle Monae, right? Yeah, Janelle Monae, respectively. Their characters were kind of like, they were kind of the secondary characters compared to, Catherine's character
Yeah.
played by Taraji P Henson.
Yeah.
So
Can we talk about real quick?
Go ahead.
Just how it wasn't meant to be humorous, or maybe it was, but whenever she had to run to the bathroom, just watching her run in heels, it just seems like, and I find it hard to believe she can't walk in heels in real life. So to see her run in heels, it was comedic to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe she played it that way, like in a physical, comedic type of way.
Yeah, I mean, it had comedy elements to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, because she was in an urgent. It was urgent. We've all been there. We've all known how that.
And she keeps dropping like some of the books on the way and having to pick them up.
Yeah, the thing is that the pointed thing that was just like when she asked the other lady there, like, I need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't know where your bathroom is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like
what I liked about this movie is that it really showed the struggles.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to learn more about is the struggles that were during that time. I mean, my mom and dad grew up in this time, and they were around when segregation was happening. And so I was a little aware of this stuff. Of course, I was born in the 80s, so it was a little bit less segregated.
Yeah.
Still, the idea of it was still there.
Yeah. I mean, we see it today.
But seeing these struggles is what I love about biopics like this.
Yeah.
You really just, it's more of an educational film.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Getting these stories told.
Absolutely.
The other character you were going to talk about was the Kevin Costner character.
Yeah, Al Harrison.
Al Harrison. What a hero.
So, man, listen. So before I watched this movie, I posted the screenshot of the image.
Yep.
And that's what I'm going to watch. A friend of mine messaged me, and he said, you need to go watch, I think it's the Seth Meyers skit. I can't remember what it's called now. But it's basically like he's poking fun at it's a satire of like the quote unquote white savior. Have you heard of that concept?
No.
You're not familiar with that concept? You know what I'm talking about.
Like where you in movies like this, there's always typically like that white person,
like a white man that's on their side or whatever.
Yeah, who like
I get
they
the
wouldn't
idea.
have been able to get like where they were at if it
For
wasn't
instance,
for
like the bathroom scene. Didn't happen.
Where he broke the sign down? That was a fake scene?
Didn't happen.
Okay.
Put in there by the writer and director of this movie.
Yeah.
The other scene where
Like just to sensationalize it? Or
well,
I wonder why it was
not for him. There's a blurb in here in my notes I want to get to about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But the other scene is when he finally says she can come into the Pentagon meetings.
Yeah.
Because she's complaining about whenever I do my math.
Yeah, she needs to know what's
yeah,
going on.
yeah, everything's already outdated.
She's all the information.
Right. So when he finally agrees, because Paul's just like, you don't need to be in this, classified or whatever, and Al says, come on in.
Yeah.
That scene didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So the two white savior scenes were fabricated.
Yeah, and Al Harrison's not a real character either.
Oh.
He's an amalgamation of a bunch of different, because in that time you'd have multiple people delegating the workload. It wouldn't just be one guy overseeing all these different
So
people.
why, I want you guys to speculate with me, why do you think, I mean, this movie's made by a white man, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Produced by, was it Fox?
I believe
Because
so.
Disney purchased Fox later.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why Disney's, on it now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they were thinking it would be accepted more widely if these things were fabricated, or what? Like as a writer, what would you do something like this in a movie about black people?
Because those are
About
two extremely pivotal scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
That kind of shift the narrative. In terms of the relationship between Catherine and Al.
Yeah.
So you're kind of forcing people to look at this narrative based on what you want to happen, and not what accurately historically happened.
Yeah.
So it shifts the focus away from what it could have been.
And because of this shift in narrative, they're making it look like the white man. The only way these things were going to happen is if a white man did.
Right.
Which
Exactly.
is false.
It is false. Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on these fabrications?
Man, I didn't realize that was fabricated. I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't, but yeah, those are it's pretty clear, because I think probably the reason why they do it is because, well, they want people to feel good.
Yeah.
and
those are feel-good scenes.
And those are feel-good scenes.
And if they're inspiring to other white people to do something like this to help their fellow black man or whatever, that's not terrible.
Right.
But I think that's the thing, is that I think those are scenes that make people feel better.
Yeah.
If you just did an honest portrayal, you would have not felt good. It would have been like, oh, well, but honestly, there wasn't anything to feel good about it because in that time frame, like,
it was all bad.
It was all bad. There was very few. You know, we realize that there's these stories that are told, and it's great that they're being told. But when these kind of movies this was a mainstream movie.
Yeah.
So this was a movie about a bunch of black women
for white audiences.
Yeah.
So
it tells a black story.
Yeah.
But it's telling a black story to make for a white audience. I'll be a mainstream audience.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I want to correct myself. Earlier I said the scene where he allows her into the Pentagon.
Yeah.
That wasn't the other fabricated scene. It was the scene at the end when he allows her to come into mission control to see the launch.
Oh, yeah.
That scene did
that. Where she watched the...
Yeah. Now, and so... pardon me. Hold on. I'm dying.
You need some water?
No.
Okay.
So here's what Melfi, who's the director and writer of the film, said about adding those scenes. He said he had no issues adding the scenes. His reasoning was, there needs to be white people who do the right thing, there needs to be black people who do the right thing, and someone does the right thing. And so who cares who does the right thing as long as the right thing is achieved? But to me, it's still, you didn't need to have those scenes.
No.
To me, the movie would have been just as effective without those two scenes in it.
It kind of contradicts what the movie he made.
Thank you. Yes.
That statement that he says
that's
after
what it
making the movie.
He contradicts himself.
Contradicts the movie he made.
Right.
One thing I was because you're talking about scenes that didn't happen. One person who was made in a very positive light in that movie was John Glenn.
Yeah.
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 And I mean, John Glenn's an American hero.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard anything negative ever about John Glenn.
Same.
Yeah.
So maybe because that's one of the very first scenes you kind of see in the movie.
Yeah.
Because John Glenn is also kind of made in a much lesser extent is made to be that kind of good guy.
Like the
figure.
perfect American.
Yeah.
Like Tom Brady.
Blonde, blue eyes.
And I hate Tom Brady.
He's like, hey, how are you?
But that's the thing. John Glenn. John Glenn's the one who goes over because they were just going to have them ignore the rest of all the women there.
Yeah.
He's the one who goes over and introduces himself. Yeah. He's the one who says, "I'm not going to do this unless." And he says the girl.
He says the woman or whatever. Yeah.
I think he referred to it as the girl.
The girl. Yeah.
And then Kevin, Harrison. Was it Harrison, right?
Yeah.
Harrison. Was you mean Catherine? He goes, yes, like her.
Yeah.
If she says the calculations are good,
right.
Now I don't know if that was true or not.
Yeah, see, I can find anything.
I don't know if that was true or not, but that was another part of it where it was like, like that's not to say that like John Glenn was a total opposite because I really doubt that he was a virulent racist or anything like that. But I don't know if that's true that John Glenn like went out of his way to shake the hands of those. I don't know how I can probably pull up the biography on John Glenn right now. I actually probably meant to at that point. I forgot.
Right.
But
being the history buff.
I meant to actually, but so I mean those are those scenes. I mean overall, like it's like you said, it kind of does contradict because it's like somebody needed to do the right thing, but it's like those scenes weren't those scenes weren't. I think the bathroom scene was a more powerful scene than the mission control scene.
Yeah.
And I think actually kind of by the mission control scene, I'd kind of zoned out a little bit at that point. I think I actually had to like kind of go back and like rewind like
you were focusing on
I think I had zoomed. I think for like about like the last like 5-10 minutes of the movie, I kind of like had zoned out by then.
Well, in that scene when Harrison goes to grab her to redo the numbers.
Yeah.
She's like kind of just waiting in that hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually Harrison's like, "Here's your badge." Clears to come in. I can see realistically just her waiting in the hallway the whole time.
Well, to see if she's going to be needed again, or if the numbers were wrong or whatever.
I would have probably assumed that this was probably been more likely what to happen. Someone probably would have been like, call that girl, call her, tell her that she needs to recalculate the stuff. Mm-hmm. Make sure that someone give her the numbers, tell her to do it, and she probably just did it right there on the spot.
Yeah.
And probably reported. But if anything like that happened, that's probably what happened.
I mean, you gotta at the same time. I'm not saying it's correct or incorrect. I'm just saying there's going to be some
obviously in any of these kind of
what's
things.
the word? Sensationalizing.
Yeah.
And they're going to make it a little bit more grandiose because it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
They want to make it exciting.
Dramatic elements added to the film,
Right.
for that purpose.
Right. Again, not saying that's correct or incorrect.
Oh, right,
That's
yeah.
just what happens.
And that's one of the issues I have with movies that start off with the text based on true events.
Yeah.
Because you never really know how much of what you saw is true
Yeah.
and what's fiction.
Yeah. Would you rather it say like this is 75% true?
Yeah, yeah. Like when the scenes that didn't happen, give me like a little flavor.
Yeah.
Oh, this scene didn't happen.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would help, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like when you I watched it, it worked on me. I felt good.
Yeah, so the first time
I was crying.
First time I saw it, it
Yeah.
worked on me too.
However, now that I know that some of that stuff is false, I'm a little more skeptical about these kind of biopics because like what is real, you know?
But I'll be real, the two scenes to me that were more powerful, actually to me the scene that was more powerful to me that made me tear up a little bit was the scene right before the bathroom scene when she comes back from the bathroom.
Yes.
And she's
soaking wet.
Yeah.
And the monologue that she gives, because really up to that point, it had been like you said, it was very subtle.
Yeah.
And it was really not to that point where it was she has that emotion.
Yeah.
And then and then she calms her and she collects her, but she says, I've been having to go to the bathroom. I've been working day and night, living off coffee from a pot that none of y'all will touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she had to calm herself down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
emotional intelligence.
That's the thing is like, it's such a trope. Not a trope, but it's such a thing that I'm and Mike, you're probably familiar, is that like, as black men, black women, we've always been told that in a lot of ways you have to control your emotions when you're in those kind of states.
Yeah.
That if, because there's that is a trope, the trope of the wildly emotional black woman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That and you see that in that moment there. She catches herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was really a more powerful scene than the
I totally agree with you.
than the breaking of the. And I was like, once he did that, I was like, you knew that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
The other scene to me that was just a touching one was just when the proposal scene that I thought was because I always like to see scenes biracial. I mean, I do like to see scenes of black love.
Mm-hmm.
But
the way that the family was involved.
the way the family was involved and how
at the dinner table.
Yes.
and the fact that his mom's ring and she's better than that. I was like, especially it's Valentine's weekend and I'm sitting here
whatever.
alone and everything.
Screw Valentine's Day.
I'm sitting there like gorging on a sausage McMuffin that I just had delivered to my apartment this morning. And
what got to me was like how all the three little girls had something to say positive about.
Yeah.
They're like interjecting.
To her.
This
Yeah.
I love that scene. That's a good scene.
Yeah,
And I like him. What's his name?
Mahershala Ali.
Is he from True Detective?
True Detective.
Yeah.
Green Book. He's gonna be Blade in the MCU.
Yeah.
Cottonmouth and Luke Cage.
Oh, yes.
By the way, rest in peace. I'm sorry. That show was brilliant.
I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I like the first season better than the second.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But it also had to remind people, and I know we're getting sidetracked here again, how effing great Alfre Woodard is.
She's so good.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. Literally, because like
she's Funny Valentine's. I know you know about Funny Valentine's.
Yeah.
I know you know about Funny Valentine's, and I know you know about what's the other one with Ving Rhames and her, Holiday Heart.
Well,
I haven't seen Holiday Heart.
You've never seen Holiday Heart? Okay.
Yeah, no.
my favorite Alfre Woodard role is in the Robert Downey Jr. movie where they're singing to him, "Hearts and Souls."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's a ghost, and she's great in that role. Also in Scrooged, I mean, she's really good. In Scrooged.
Yeah.
So
I mean, hey, when you win a Golden Globe for Best Actress against Meryl Streep,
I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Boom.
Yeah.
pretty big.
Yeah.
It's a pretty damn big deal.
Right.
well, let's talk about 2016.
So
What else was going on?
So here's the thing. So when I was doing my notes, as I always do, I fact check my fact checks, right? To some degree.
And I love that.
Yeah. So it had a limited release in 2016.
Oh.
And then got a wide release.
That's why in some publications on where you can rent it, it says 2016 and or 2017.
Right.
So there's a limited release in 2016. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So actually, my my movies are 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead.
Well, yeah, because right on IMDb it says 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna ring them off because there's always a ton.
Yeah.
Last Jedi. That was the second one. That was the most worst one. I think everybody kind of agreed.
It wasn't received well.
Yeah.
That was 2016.
2017.
That was 2017. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So these won't go in order of when they were released. It's just all that year.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Okay.
Fate of the Furious, the first one without Paul Walker. The Justice League.
Oh.
Yeah. No, but I'm super excited about March 18th.
Okay, March 18th.
Yeah,
Coming up soon. Okay.
the Snyder Cut. Yeah. I was just telling him yesterday, I think I texted you.
Yeah.
I was looking up some information on that. So, Zack Snyder dropped out because I think his daughter committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
When he dropped out, only 10% of the film was shot.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this is why it's taking so long to get the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Because he basically had to reshoot the entire thing.
Everything. Yeah.
There's like a whole extra $50 million put into the budget.
Yeah.
We've seen that, this and that.
Yeah.
Seen the image of the Joker.
Yeah.
And Batman's like in there talking to him. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Darkseid looks a lot better too.
Yeah, and also Desaad's there, and the nanny, the granny nanny, or what's like a female villain. It's like an image of the three of them side by side.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay. Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Okay.
Despicable.
So I really like that movie.
Yeah, me too. Despicable Me 3, War for the Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah.
Thor.
That was a
Ragnarok.
good trilogy.
Yeah, it was.
The new Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
trilogy.
actually, weirdly enough, I like the first one the best.
The first one was
James
great.
Franco.
Yeah.
And I always hated they didn't bring him back for
His character. Yeah.
at least a scene at the end of War for the Planet of the Apes. Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, the first one. Logan, Dunkirk, Kong Skull Island, 50 Shades of
These
Dark.
are all so good.
Coco, Life, Boss Baby, Lego, Batman, Jumanji, John Wick 2, Paddington 2, Pitch Perfect 3,
Nice.
Blade Runner, which is one of my top favorite movies of that year. Resident Evil, Emoji Movie, King Arthur, the Guy Ritchie one.
Oh, so good. Oh, I love the movie.
I saw the best action scenes on YouTube. I was like, I saw the whole thing.
Oh, it's a really good. I love that story.
So that pretty much wraps up 2017 movie-wise.
Okay. Who is the director?
Theodore Melfi. The only thing I could find that he's done that I thought was significant was St. Vincent with Bill Murray, Melissa McCarthy, and Naomi Watts.
Okay, he wrote Going in Style, which is a Zach Braff directed heist movie.
Oh.
With all these old actors. Michael Caine, Alan Arkin, Matt Dillon's in it, Christopher Lloyd's in it. It's a really pretty decent film.
Yeah.
He wrote that.
Would that be the Mount Rushmore of Hollywood grandfathers right there? I think that it could be.
I mean, yeah, Michael Caine and
Christopher Lloyd,
Alan Arkin's so funny. I love Alan Arkin.
He is.
Yeah. Was this based on a book or?
Yeah, it's based on the Margot Lee Shetterly book.
Okay.
And the screenplay was written by, like I said, Melfi, the director as well. Alison Schroeder had some input. She's written Christopher Robin, Frozen 2, and the upcoming Minecraft movie.
And Pineapple Express.
And Pineapple Express, yeah.
It says she was an additional crew on whatever that means.
Oh, okay. Probably extra or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've already kind of talked about some scenes that we've loved. Like, what's your input?
I mean, overall, I thought, it's an important story to tell, even if it's not perfect. I think it's, until this movie came out, I didn't know this.
You didn't know about these women?
I didn't know about them.
So there's that.
That's why
even someone who, so I think that's the thing is that I think it's an important thing on several different levels. Is that, it gives us a historical look at, not just both women, black people, women and black women in STEM.
Right.
Which none of us is a field that none of us are in at all.
Yeah.
But we understand that there's been a push for that, to include that more. So it's good to know that, man, like you had these women involved, in one way or another from the space program. Doesn't get more STEMmy than that.
Yeah.
I think, so I think that's a good thing when you look at it and there's these stories of these women who were absolutely brilliant and determined and Katherine Johnson was a brilliant woman. That, kind of breaking a barrier and things like that. So overall, I think for, it's about a 2-hour movie. It's worth watching.
Yeah, totally.
It's a story worth watching. It's a story worth telling.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that, like you said, those certain factors in the movie are not true.
Right.
And they kind of take them, with a grain of salt and kind of understand that there is a bit of that. You still have that white savior complex. Not as bad and not as blatant as it is in some other movies.
Yeah.
But still there. So I mean, I enjoyed it. For getting up and watching it at 6:45 this morning.
I will say that learning the truth about the Al Harrison character, I hate that I know it because
it changes.
I loved his character in the movie.
It was a great character. Yeah, it was a good
plus
character.
it's Kevin Costner.
And it's Kevin Costner.
I really enjoy watching him on screen.
Right.
He's played so many. Even when he was Clark Kent's dad in
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel was a really good role for him.
Yeah, it was.
He played it really well. Mm-hmm. And over the last weekend, I watched Field of Dreams,
That's a classic.
which is one of my favorite Kevin Costner roles.
Yeah, it's probably my all-time favorite Costner movie.
It's probably my favorite baseball movie.
Over Sandlot?
Over basketball?
I'm sorry? Did I hear you right?
Over the Sandlot too?
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Relax.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, what you're saying is the fabrication of that character in this...
Uriah broke himself.
Over the Benchwarmers?
Okay.
I never saw that.
I've watched that movie, there was 1 year... when I was in high school, that movie was on Stars for 100.
Every day.
So I think I've seen that movie.
Did you watch it every time?
There's because there was nothing else on. There's 2 Rob Schneider movies that, for whatever reason, in different parts of school, that they were on every day that I've watched way too many times that I'd like to care to.
Was the other one where he plays a prostitute or whatever?
No, the other one's actually it is. It's,
It's
Deuce Bigelow.
Deuce Bigelow,
No, but not the first one. The second one.
Oh, okay. I understand.
Deuce Bigelow, Europe. I've seen that movie. There was a point when I was a senior in high school that I could quote that movie verbatim. I wasn't proud of it then, and I'm not proud of it now.
What I love about you is that you have this history brain, right? And you have all this room for history.
Yeah.
But then you have this little pocket for all the lines in Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo.
But the best ones, it's actually Eddie Griffin's lines in that movie, because it's just I think the point is it wasn't really even Rob Schneider's character that was good. It was Eddie Griffin's character, because Eddie Griffin just had that kind of that. Where the hell has Eddie Griffin been, by the way?
He's been doing nothing.
Who did he piss off?
Yeah, right.
Hollywood.
Jeez.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Janelle Monae.
Uriah, been waiting for this moment.
Here we go.
Actually,
Uriah, take it away.
Actually, I don't have that much to say. She's bad though.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's a.
Our introduction to her is
such a '90s statement.
That's a.
She bad.
Yeah.
She bad.
No, but our introduction to her is in the beginning when the car's broken down.
Yep.
And she's the only one kind of giving lip to the cop, and the other Dorothy and Catherine are just relax.
I do like that scene because they demanded respect. They were respectful of him, right? Because he's a police officer.
Yeah.
So and I know that police and African Americans didn't get along around this time.
Don't get along.
Still don't get along.
Yeah.
But I like how they respected him. He learned about what they did for a living.
Yeah.
It kind of changed his opinion on it. I know that it wasn't a perfect scene as far as semantics goes.
Yeah.
But I like how that scene.
And I love how he's like, well, you girls want an escort. And Janelle's like, I'll drive. Yeah. And she's right on his bumper.
And they're just flying.
She's like, can you believe we got 3 Negro women chasing after a white police police officer?
Yeah.
That was really good.
No, it was
She's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a nice.
Plus, she's a great actress.
Yeah, she does a great job for someone who's not an actress really.
What else has she been in?
There's
she's a singer.
Yeah, she's a singer.
Yeah,
okay. Amazing singer.
The walk on the tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's always dressed up in the manly business.
Yeah, so she's. I think she's kind of a would you say pansexual? I think is kind of what she. That's a good way. But that's kind of if you see her there usually she'll wear kind of she always has a pompadour and I know especially kind of early in her career it was a lot of she. Even though she has a level of femininity, there's also a little bit of androgyny to it too.
Yeah.
Kind of a more modern version of Grace Jones.
That's a great great comparison, yeah.
Except just not as tall.
That's hilarious that he said that because I was watching Black Panther last night.
Yes.
There's that Grace Jones line.
Yeah.
And I love that line. Yeah.
Which also reminds me, why the hell wasn't Grace Jones in Black Panther?
Is she still alive?
Yeah, oh yeah, Grace Jones is like 70 years old and looks exactly the same as she did like in the 80s.
Awesome.
Yeah, she could have been one of the Dora Milaje.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I mean, like Grace Jones is actually like 6'8" in real life, not quite, but
Yeah.
Funny thing about Grace Jones. So you know who her brother is, right? Noel Jones.
I don't.
Who's a big. So her brother is a big like mega church pastor in L.A.
I didn't know that.
But do you know where his very first church was?
Don't say Tyler.
Longview.
For real?
My gosh.
That's crazy.
But no, like because like I knew Grace Jones was and I knew who he was because like my dad would like every so often he would have like he has like a nationally like syndicated show of like his services.
Yeah.
So I've seen him like his services on TV.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you Google him, you'll find like a bunch of stuff on him. But yeah, he's like That's Grace Jones's brother.
That's crazy.
And his first church was in Longview back like probably like 40 years ago.
That's crazy.
From Longview to L.A.
Yeah.
You know who also was a pastor of a church in Longview? Or are you wrestling fans here? Anybody wrestling fans? Slick. The manager?
For real?
Yeah, he was a pastor of a church in Longview for a number of years.
So you went from religion to wrestling?
I think vice versa.
Oh, vice versa. Okay. Wow. No,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Wrestling and then religion?
And then religion,
Yeah. I don't know if he's in Longview anymore, but I know he was in I think he had ties to this area.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think when he like kind of got from wrestling and like became like a reverend, he was
That's really cool.
he had a church in Longview for a long time.
So,
Tying it all together here.
earlier I told you I was going to come up with a nickname for you, other than Uriah Never Lies Johnson. Or Uriah Doesn't Lie Johnson. It's going to be, you're going to be deemed our honorary podcast historian.
That's awesome. Or like fact checker or
Fact checker, yeah.
Well, that could be like you've watched Pardon the Interruption, right?
Yeah.
On ESPN.
Yeah.
It could be like, was it Tony Reale's Stat Boy? And don't call me Stat Boy, but
no, I'm not gonna say that.
but it's funny. Like Tony Reale's, even though Tony
Fat
Reale,
Boy.
Yeah.
Tony Reale's like 45 now. They still like Stat Boy. I don't think he's on the show anymore.
When?
I wanted to talk about. I didn't like how they kept calling them computers.
I didn't even.
I know that that's what their job was because they like calculate and they do all that and they're mathematicians or whatever. But they it was very derogatory.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's the reason why they kept doing it because
Yeah.
Kirsten
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst.
That joke, that video we did years ago. If I had $1,000, what would I name them?
Kristen.
Kristen.
Can we also talk about how Kirsten Dunst has been around forever, and I don't even think she's 40 years old yet.
She was so
she's
young
close.
in Jumanji.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she
I mean,
was.
here's the thing.
Spider-Man.
There's
Spider-Man.
well,
Upside down
my two, my because I will always she's 38. She doesn't turn 39.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She turns 39 in April.
She's younger than I thought.
But the two Kirsten Dunst will always when I see her in roles. And even though she's, she doesn't do a whole lot of stuff, but she always will hold a special place in my heart for two movies.
Okay. Pleasantville?
No.
Oh.
Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not ashamed to say, Bring It On.
Oh,
I
you know
absolutely love both of those movies.
I love Bring It On too, man.
But
Yeah.
Drop Dead Gorgeous, I know you've seen it, right?
No, I have. I'm more familiar with that than I am with Bring It On. I don't think I've seen Bring It On.
The first
There's like a bunch of them.
There's a bunch of them, but the first, it's her, Eliza Dushku, and Jesse Bradford, and Gabrielle Union.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who was probably like, now that you think about it, Gabrielle Union was probably like 37 when that movie came out. But like, but she looks exactly as Black Duck Crack, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. If you've never watched Bring It On,
I should watch Bring It
next
On.
time you just with the lady, just like, hey, let's watch Bring It
So
On.
the reason why I love that movie, sidebar again, I had a cousin who was like in cheerleading and would go to these competitions across the state of Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And around that time, this movie was out. And so I finally went to one of her competitions in San Antonio. And I was like, this is actually kind of lit, you know, just to see the inner workings of how this thing goes. So then I went back to Bring It On. I was like, I love Bring It On.
That's cool.
And I love Eliza Dushku also. So.
Yeah, it's a really. The story is good.
Yeah.
It's funny without trying to be like really over the top.
Yeah.
It's like for like a high school movie, it doesn't have like all those it has some of the cheesy high school tropes that you get in those movies, but like it does a really good it's the best of all those things.
Is that the movie where they're trying The word is fetch, and they're trying to make fetch.
No, that's Mean Girls.
That's Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I love
yeah.
Mean Girls,
Bring
too.
It On was their, like, Kirsten Dunst's school was like the suburban, like San Diego, like they were like the multiple-time national cheerleading champions.
Yeah.
Well, she's the new cheer captain, and what she finds, and then she has this thing that she was cursed because at spirit camp one year she dropped the spirit stick, and whoever drops a spirit stick goes to Hades.
Okay.
It's like the scene that happens. The girl goes, because
You have to watch this.
You gotta see it, bro.
Yeah.
But what they find out is that, so Eliza Dushku's character had moved into town, and she's like that edgy kind of like,
Yeah.
She's like, oh man, she's like the kind of like loser loner, but it's Eliza Dushku who's like fine as hell,
Right.
But he finds out that she's like a gymnast, and they convince her to join cheerleading. And when Eliza Dushku first sees their routine, she immediately recognizes it from another school, and it was a school in East Compton.
Yeah.
Which is there even at East Compton?
No.
I don't know.
East Compton.
It's just Compton. You don't want to go to any part of Compton.
Yeah.
It's
all bad.
it's like like on Moesha, they lived in Compton,
Yeah.
but it's like that's not how Compton is at all. They were like suburban. It was like, yeah, we're in Compton.
Right.
We go to Compton High. It's like,
Yeah. I'm sure.
man,
I'm
you look like you live in a really nice house.
I'm sure a white producer was like, "Let's make it look good."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But which is funny because another thing about my cousin, if you go and there's the thing about the TV shows, my cousin Brandy posts on there. She goes anything but Moesha because she said Moesha and her daddy are trash.
Yeah. I saw her comment the other day. Yeah.
That had me rolling
Yeah.
yesterday morning. But that's what and so like they go and it's Gabrielle Union is the leader, the cheerleader at that school, and they see that that the previous like cheer captain at their school had been stealing their routines.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so then like Kirsten Dunst like reaches out and like is like you guys deserve to be like a part of this competition as well. And that's kind of like what happens there. But it's also like the turmoil of her like being the cheer captain. And it's like, wait, there's no teachers in this movie because like in school like that's one thing, like when I got to like after I saw that movie that I got to middle school and I was like, wait a second, like cheerleaders have like sponsors and teachers and stuff like that. They don't have, there's no
none of that.
like there's no like faculty supervision of this like multiple time award winning like that's the one thing about it. It's like there's no adults in this movie at all.
Yeah.
There's got the annoying ass little brother, but then also
I forgot about him.
Which movie are we talking about right now?
Bring it on.
No.
It's on-
Which podcast episode is this?
it's the Hidden Figures and such.
And such.
This is another Supreme extravaganza.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, let's go back to.
what else about
Well,
about
there's
the
a
movie?
bunch of cool trivia that's that I like to read and enjoy reading. Taraji, am I saying it right?
Taraji.
Taraji P
Yeah,
Henson.
Taraji P Henson.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
She went and met with the real life Catherine, who was 98, and they discussed her character. And she says that she was just as lucid as she was when she was younger.
Really? Wow.
At 98 years
That
old.
brain, man.
Yeah, dude,
She
just
didn't
so
lose it.
intelligent.
I would love to know what she did in her latter years to keep her brain functioning.
Yeah.
Because most times you get that old, you're not what you were 30, 40 years prior
right.
to that.
Yeah.
You think it's brain food? Like people talk about brain food?
I think it's a lot of things genetics. I think it's brain. I mean, like I had a great aunt who lived to 106, and
Yeah.
I mean, she was fair. She was up until the end. She was very lucid. She
That's
lived by
awesome.
herself.
That's awesome.
Really?
So I think there's just there's a lot of factors. Smoking and drinking probably help. Not smoking and drinking probably help
That
too.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this earlier about what John Glenn did and how he asked. He legit asked for Catherine to review all the calculations for the
awesome. Okay.
7
Yeah.
mission before he could be confident enough to proceed.
I love that.
So he legit believed and trusted in her, and he was like, "I need those numbers."
Yeah.
And she got them, and
So that could validate the earlier
yeah.
scene where he's like, I haven't met everybody yet. We shaking the hands.
Yep.
Maybe he actually did want to shake everyone's hand.
And her calculations only took 3 days to confirm. Like, that's fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was he the
Okay,
one?
so
Oh.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, was he the one that saw the UFO, or was that the guy who went to the moon?
John Glenn, I don't know.
Who's the guy that went to the moon?
That's Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong or
Yeah.
and Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah, those two guys.
It was Buzz. Never
Buzz
mind.
actually
yeah.
saw it.
Yeah, John Glenn went to space, and then he was the first one to orbit it. American, and then he was a senator for a long time.
Wow.
So Jim Parsons and Kirsten Dunst's characters are not based on real people.
Oh my gosh! Just ruining everything.
Both characters are composites of different team members who worked at NASA.
Okay.
So it's like they took some things and made them into these two characters.
So same thing with Al Harrison, Kaufman's character.
And I'm okay with that because it's kind of like poetic justice. You know, you kind of like figure out how it's going to work best for this story and on screen.
It would have just been too, for that story and how it was told. It would have just been too clunky if it was
absolutely.
If you had like 17 different people who were
because it's like you have if that's the case, Catherine has her nemesis and Paul. Bye.
No, I'm not leaving. I just like that hip. You got to kind of.
You all right?
Like say, I'm fine.
Okay.
So
I just got to stand up.
Catherine has her nemesis and Paul.
Yeah.
And then Dorothy has her nemesis and Mrs. Mitchell.
Yeah. So it's story architects.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah.
However, they were there to represent the dismissive attitudes held by some of the white coworkers during this period.
Okay.
So important, like there for those reasons.
See, now I'm cool with that.
So same. That kind of like solidifies why they chose to do that.
And they couldn't be blatantly racist. Could you just imagine like having Sheldon Cooper call someone the N-word in a movie? I was just like, if that would have happened, I would have just been like,
that would have been kind of crazy.
I would have been like, click.
I'll tell you one scene that made me super uncomfortable is when Catherine first walks in to that room, when she's sitting there.
Don't embarrass me.
And all the white guys in that room are just like constantly staring at her, watching her, every move she makes.
Yeah.
Like I just felt super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I've been there.
Right.
So I know what that feels like.
Do you have any more things to
Yeah, no, she so before she married and took the name Johnson, her maiden name was Goebel. And she talks about her time in NASA where she says she didn't feel the segregation at NASA because everybody was there doing research. You had a mission, you worked on it, and it was important for you to do your job. And she said she didn't feel the segregation, but she knew it was there, but she just didn't really...
It wasn't as in her face, I guess?
Pretty much, yeah. So that kind of speaks to maybe why it's kind of like hidden undertone in the movie.
Yeah.
It's not so over the top.
Because I would assume, and probably like in that atmosphere, you have people from all across the country.
Right.
So it was like, this was like a government installation. It wasn't like I think I mentioned earlier, this wasn't a story about somebody who lived in like, Alabama or Mississippi, where this is typically what you'd have in these kind of movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're in a overtly, oppressive, racist community.
Right.
Where these were people who were, that obviously like that racism, those things still held true, but it was still to the point where it was like, the people that their coworkers came from all different kind of backgrounds.
Yeah.
And you even get that in the one part with Mary and was it Dr. Z, who was the Polish Jew? Who was that when they had that thing?
I like that relationship.
There was that. And they really only played on it like that one time. And then they didn't really focus on him a lot.
They made their point.
Yeah.
And then
they made their one point with him at the beginning.
He came back later.
But other than that, it was just kind of like a moot point.
Yeah.
And, but he says that. He goes, I'm a Polish Jew whose both of his parents were killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Here I am. Go and move forward, pursue with what you got to do.
Yeah.
I'll support you in that. So
and
he just made that point. Yeah.
They're both coming from these similar hard walks of life, and they're both just getting their job done. Like, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
You're the best person. And I think that was the thing. You're the best person for this job.
Yeah.
You should be an engineer. You should be doing this.
Like.
It doesn't matter what you look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, it helps that you look like Janelle Monae, but it's like
there was a set used for Dorothy Vaughn's house where the ladies play cards and danced. Actually, a historic house in Atlanta where civil rights pioneers Ralph Abernathy and Martin Luther King met.
That's crazy.
That's pretty badass.
That is.
That's like a little reference, I guess, to those times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I've got some. So this is the first movie we've done so far where I didn't have any favorite lines, but I've got some favorite scenes.
Okay.
I like when Dorothy and Mary, after the Sunday service, are teasing Catherine about. His name's Joe, right?
I think so.
Yeah. because they're like,
Colonel Johnson.
Colonel Johnson,
Like standing over there.
Yeah, they're like, he's looking over here. She's like, I don't know why he's looking over here. You know,
His
Janelle Monae, she's like, come over here.
That was a really
she's
good.
like, he's coming over. He's like, I don't know why he's coming over here.
Yeah.
And then they start like giving.
Man,
him,
I want some cake.
Yeah,
Or whatever they said to get away.
It's just like a group of high school
She goes,
girls
"I want some
teasing
cake."
her.
That was really good.
I love the bond the three of them had.
Totally.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one that I liked was when Mary is going to go to the class for the first time, and her husband, who they kind of had differing views in terms of how,
you were kind of on the fence about him.
on that.
Yeah.
You think a little more radicalized?
He was more radical. He was a bit more of that Stokely Carmichael, H. Rap Brown kind of. Even though that was kind of a few years before those guys took prominence, but he was kind of that set than what she was. But I loved it with the part where he came back. And she's getting ready, and she's like, and he goes, "I got you something," and he got her the mechanical pencils. And he goes, nobody is going to stand in the way of Mary Jackson's dreams,
really
especially me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was,
Showed
once
his
again,
support.
showed a really wonderful, tender moment of black love that you sometimes don't see it. Because a lot of times in those kind of movies, when you have those kind of couples, it always... the black male is always kind of problematic.
Yeah.
And I like that fact that you had...
It's a positive.
Yeah, didn't... even though they didn't have big roles in the movie, that, her husband and even the Colonel Johnson, her husband, her love interest, weren't problematic.
Yeah.
They weren't problematic characters.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that even though you've got that white savior complex, I can kind of give it to the fact that the black men in the movie weren't problematic, and because that happens a lot of times in movies.
It absolutely
like that.
does.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like each of the three main characters had these small wins in their personal journey, and I just loved it. Like Dorothy finally getting the supervisor role at the end. We talk about the bathroom scene.
Yeah. The library scene with her boys.
Bro.
Man.
That made me so mad.
Yeah. I love how they got back on the bus and, she's explaining to them and just giving them information on why it's happening.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if that actually happened or not.
I mean, it happened, and I'm sure that was just based on a...
Well, so this is why, after I watched the movie, tie-in that I thought that maybe that didn't happen, but I know that happened to somebody. So Ronald McNair was one of the astronauts who was killed in the Challenger explosion. Yeah, he was. I think he was the second black male astronaut. Wow. He was one of the first. Yeah. And there's are you guys familiar with StoryCorps?
I'm not.
So StoryCorps is kind of they do like an NPR, but it's this service that they go across the country, and kind of like this, they set up these mobile stations and they interview people. And people will talk about their lives. So a son, a child, an adult. Or, a child with their parent, talking about their parent growing up, whether it's a younger child than their parent, the struggles and things like that in life. Well, there's one, and a lot of times when they show these, they'll do little animated shorts. So you've probably seen me share them on Facebook.
Okay.
Because they get me. You can watch them, and they're all these quick little shorts, and then if you watch a few minutes of them, you're bawling, crying. But one thing about Ronald, there's one with Ronald McNair when he was a boy growing up in South Carolina. When he was 9 years old, and I think this was in 1960, probably somewhere around that time.
Yeah.
He walks to the public library as a 9-year-old, and it's a segregated library, and they're told him that he's not allowed to go in, not allowed to be there, and the librarian is you can't be in here, and he goes, well, she goes, well, I'm going to call the police, and he goes, I'll wait. And he gets in, he just sits there and waits, and the police, and it's his brother telling the story, and they show the animation. So his brother's telling the story, and then they have the animation showing it, and the police come, and they were like, well, what's the problem? And the librarian points at the little boy, and they're like, what is he doing? And you would think in a child like this, they'd probably be like, oh, get out of here, boy, But now they're like, what's the... And, he says, his mother, the brother talks about how the mother comes, and she's like, he'll take care of the books. And even the cop was like, well, why don't you just let him
Yeah.
He's not bothering anything.
Yeah.
Just let him take the book.
Yeah.
And so that came and it hit me because like
During the scene?
that hit me kind of after I'd watched the movie and I was getting ready. Was that maybe if that necessarily didn't happen, I know there's a tie-in to that because that happened to Ronald McNair, who was an astronaut for NASA.
Yeah.
And
maybe
that library, I think about 10 years ago, they actually renamed it after him.
Oh, nice.
On the 25th anniversary of the Challenger explosion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
But yeah, just to see those kind of moments of even at the point where she's in front of the judge. And I don't care what the federal government or state courts say.
Yeah.
This is still a segregated state.
Yeah.
And to show that that was 5 years after 5 or 6 years after Brown versus Board of Education.
Yeah.
People had to jump through the freaking hoops that people had to jump through.
That's crazy.
To get stuff done. And to think about it, 1961 wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, right.
No.
60 years ago. My father was 18, 19 years old when
All this happens.
this has happened.
Some really good monologues in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Those kind of scenes you're talking about, where she's talking to the judge and trying to get on his, not his good side, but trying to.
She played him up. That's what she did.
Yeah,
She
She used her intelligence.
She used her
she did.
intelligence.
Yeah.
She researched it and she played him up and she schmoozed him.
Yeah, and it worked.
And it worked.
It worked, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you? So to start that off, she's like, "You want me? I approach the bench."
Yeah.
Have you ever had to approach the bench in your personal life?
No.
I have.
Oh.
I got a speeding ticket one time.
Okay.
And there's you're in there with a bunch of other people that are there for whatever reason, and they're just you go up to the judge, you get your sentence or whatever, and you're.
Yeah.
And I was too embarrassed to say my piece in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So I said, "Your Honor, may I approach the bench?" Because they're you can't. There's a line that's there on the floor, a marker on set tape.
Yeah.
Don't cross this line. And I was like, "Your Honor, may I approach the bench?" And he was just "Okay." They just open it. He's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, listen, I don't have the money to pay for this ticket. Can I get a payment plan?"
Yeah.
And that was it.
Nice.
I just don't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And he was like, "Fine, go to the sea, whoever it was, and they'll take care of it." I was like, "Oh, that was easy." I walked out happy.
Yeah. I think I did one time just jury duty. It was I went, and I was they had.
Do you have any discrepancies or whatever?
Yeah, I had to approach the bench.
What do they say? Not discrepancies.
Just something was hindering.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
That didn't work when I had to do federal jury duty.
Disqualification, is that the word?
I don't know.
Because that was when I was still living at home, so I had to go to Rusk for jury duty.
Yeah.
But I also have had to serve. I've had to literally serve on a jury before.
I have too.
Can we just not talk about it because I've never done it and I'm super nervous we're talking about it now.
I did federal jury.
Okay, Uriah, stop.
He's not gonna stop. You know you're
I know
right.
he's not gonna stop.
It all happened on July the 26th,
Well,
1993.
I had just a couple of extra quotes from Melfi about the whole accusations of him adding the white savior storyline.
yeah.
He called those accusations hurtful, saying it's very upsetting that we still have to have this conversation. I get upset when I hear the phrase black film. When I read that quote, I thought to myself, in my opinion, and I want your opinions on this too, I think there is such a title as a black film.
Yeah.
And I think that you said this film was marketed about 3 black women to mass audiences. Not a black film. But if you think about New Jack City.
It's a black film.
Deep Cover. Those are black movies. And
that doesn't mean that other people can't enjoy them.
Yeah.
Right. But
that's what they're marketed for.
That's what they're marketed for.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's their target audience.
Okay.
So for him to say he doesn't believe in that term, again, that's just ignorant as well.
Sweet Home Alabama was not marketed for you and I.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So.
Hold on.
Please say it. Yes. What? Tell us.
Was Bring It On?
I think that's how.
You love that movie.
But I love that movie. I wouldn't necessarily, that's kind of a movie.
It's a white movie.
But it is, but it's a movie kind of like this. It's a movie like Hidden Figures.
So you're saying that Hidden Figures is not a black movie?
No. I'm saying Hidden Figures is more for... Hidden Figures tells a black story.
It's a black story for white audiences.
For a mainstream audience.
Okay. Again?
For black audiences, white audiences, for the general public.
Not necessarily a good or a bad thing. But that's that's
Yeah,
what,
it's just what it is.
Yeah,
It's
there are
just-
certain movies. I mean, you have black films, you have kid films.
Yeah.
You know, you have horror fan films. I mean, there's movies that are designed for a specific demographic. Doesn't mean there's only exclusive to that demo.
No.
Anybody can see it.
True.
But their target audience is a specific group of people.
I highly doubt when the movie First Sunday came out, you were like, damn, I didn't go see that. When I saw the trailer for First Sunday, I was like, hey, you want to go see First Sunday?
Right?
Have you ever seen First
No.
Sunday? Okay.
I figured he hadn't.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking it's in the same universe as like Friday and Friday After Next.
Yeah, it's a much more recent movie.
Yeah.
But it was Cat Williams.
I mean,
and,
just like a-
Ice Cube, and,
Okay.
and yeah, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So
I like those guys.
It's Ice Cube, and who's the other guy that's trying to rob the church? Who's the other guy? Whose partner? Is it?
Chi McBride. He's the pastor in the
No,
movie.
but who's the other? Isn't there another robber with him? Is it
Oh yeah, it was Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
nice.
Yeah.
Tracy Morgan.
So majority of the black comedies that are black film comedies are gonna have like 8 or 9 black people that black people know.
They're black
Black
famous.
people.
They're
Yeah.
black
Oh,
famous.
okay, yeah.
So the way I love to do this, and this still kind of ties into what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're in the after, is that BET had a show a couple years ago. It was The Real Husbands of Hollywood. That's Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
It was like
Good show.
after a while it kind of got like stale, but like the first season was really funny.
That's cool.
And they talk about like it was like Kevin Hart meets up with Chris Rock. And I think Chris Rock tells him, he's like, Kevin, you're not, he goes, I'm famous. Chris Rock, I'm famous. He goes, you're black famous. And that was, but the thing is, it was perfectly real, because there are actors that like black people know.
Yeah, of course.
You've seen them and stuff, and sometimes you may not remember their names.
Is Delroy Lindo one of those?
Oh, 1,000.
Is he black?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If you,
'Cause we love Delroy.
We love Daryl. We're gonna get him on the show one day.
Crooklyn.
Yeah.
Crooklyn. Have you seen Crooklyn?
I haven't seen
Another
Crooklyn.
Spike Lee joint. Another one.
Okay.
That honestly, I think like it's not one of his most talked about ones.
No, it's not.
To me, I think it's one of his best movies.
I agree.
Crooklyn is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Also has Alfre Woodard.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
She's black famous.
Yeah.
but Loretta Devine.
Oh yeah.
Loretta Devine.
My dear friend.
Yeah.
Oh well, she's
That's not Loretta Devine.
Sorry, no. I'm talking.
Yeah.
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
I got my.
She's in
She's in
Grey's?
Grey's?
I have no idea.
Yeah, she's.
Okay. That's the mother from This Christmas, my dear.
Yeah.
She's in Grey's?
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, she went in Scrubs.
What are you doing watching Grey's Anatomy, bro?
I was married for a long
Oh,
time.
facts.
You were?
I was gonna say, wait, how well do we really know Uriah, or how well does he know us?
Sandy's a girl.
She played. So there's a hospital administrator. She was his wife on Grey's.
You're right. Okay, yeah, I know exactly what
They
you're
had
talking
like
about.
marriage troubles or
Yep,
whatever.
yep. I know the husband you're talking about.
Yeah.
In that.
Who would I say would be black famous? He's been in a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's
I can't think of his name, but I see his face clear as day.
One of that guys.
Yeah.
There's one I saw. It was a meme, and it was like I can't even remember the name of this guy, but he's been in a bunch of movies, and someone goes Evil Dave Chappelle. It was Bokeem Woodbine.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
But someone put
He does look like.
someone put Evil Dave Chappelle.
like Dark Universe Dave Chappelle. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
But we probably know, like, Dave Chappelle's probably, in
They're
a
both
way.
very similar looking, though.
Yeah, but Dave Chappelle's probably also pretty evil himself. I love Dave Chappelle,
Oh, yeah.
but there's quite a bit of evil in
Well,
Dave Chappelle.
I talk to people now, when you look at the last few stand-ups that Chappelle's done, he's transcended to George Carlin comedy, where it's a little bit cynical, but he's drawing attention to real-world issues, and will still find a way to make you laugh if you can get on his cynical wavelength of how he perceives things.
His conscience.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so, who else is? Oh, because I saw this in my post a couple days ago about it was a Facebook memory. Roger Guinevere Smith. You know what I'm talking about?
I probably know his face, but I don't know.
Yeah, you'd know his face.
I'm gonna look him up.
That's when you know. That's when you know, like you're watching a black movie. You're watching a black movie.
I recognize him.
If he's in this movie, he is not in any movie.
He's a Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, he is not. He is not in any movies that are targeted towards white audiences at all.
That's true.
Like when you see this cat in the movie, you're like, oh, this. This is a black movie.
Yeah. He was in like what stand out for me is He Got Game.
Yeah.
And Gang Related with Tupac and John Belushi. I think he's in that. Oh, Debo, Black Famous.
Tiny Lister, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Can we talk? By the way, that just reminds me. Can we talk about how they had that throwback at Harvey Hall last year?
Yeah.
And within a year,
Yeah,
two of
they're both dead now.
they're both dead.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Somebody, a friend of mine on Facebook pointed this out.
Yeah.
Because he had pictures with these two people because they were in Tyler. So Screech and who was the other one?
Debo, Tiny Lister,
Yeah, Tiny Lister. Yeah.
Zeus, because
They
he was
both
winning the
died
rest.
in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The cursed throwback.
Yeah.
I just have one little last quick thing about Melfi, just continuation. So I like what you're bringing because when it's just he and I, we do deep dives and get off on tangents
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
That's why I was okay with it earlier.
Yeah,
You're just
right.
like going on your own little
Let
rabbit
it go,
hole.
yeah. So it's just kind of a continuation of the whole, accusation of the white savior storyline. A reporter at the Huffington Post commented on Melfi's frustration, saying it's the perfect example of how when it comes to open dialogue about depictions of people of color on screen, it behooves, I love the word behooves, by the way. It behooves white people, especially those who position themselves as allies, to listen. The inclusion of the bathroom scene doesn't make Melfi a bad filmmaker, bad person, or a racist. I agree on all 3 points.
Yeah.
But his suggestion that a feel-good scene, that I think one of you said it's a feel-good scene, like that was needed for the marketability and overall appeal of the film, speaks to the fact that Hollywood at large still has a long way to go in telling black stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We talked about that already. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wish I could have gotten more examples of movies, like black movies that had
That did that.
trope in it as examples, but I mean it was super late already.
And knowing these facts doesn't change my opinion of the movie. I still enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I thought
I'd
it was
watch
good.
it again.
Yeah. I mean, if it was on, I'd probably watch it again. It's I think it's a story worth telling, and I think it was told. It was well told.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anything that I was like, oh God, like I wish they would have like I hate how they did this person or they didn't do they.
I would watch this with Remy, and I would love to show him this and like as an educational tool.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna get the education in this movie in a school book.
No.
Sadly enough.
No.
And a lot of black historical movies are predominantly about black men. This is one of the few that's not just about one black woman, but 3.
Yeah.
We've got Harriet Tubman, of course, and I'm sure a few others, but I can't even think of any off the top of my head.
Did you ever see the Tuskegee Airmen?
Was it Red Tails?
Red Tails.
Well, there was 2.
Red Tails. Yeah.
Tuskegee Airmen was more in the 90s.
Oh, okay,
and Red Tails was newer.
Yeah, I saw Red Tails.
But they're both about like the first.
Why am I thinking the Tuskegee Airmen movie had Lou Gossett Jr. in it? Probably because all those movies in the 90s.
He was in the
Iron
Eagle. That's what he was in. Yeah.
Because Lou Gossett Jr. was in all this. He also
was
played
in everything. In the
he also
90s.
played. He also played Anwar Sadat in that TV biopic.
In what?
He also played Anwar Sadat like in the 80s, like in a TV. Yeah. In Sadat, I think it was Sadat. I think was the name of it.
It was.
But but Sadat was like, even though he was Egyptian, I think that was one of the things was that he was vilified a lot for being of black skin.
Yeah.
So I guess Lou Gossett Jr. wasn't. Lou Gossett Jr. was kind of a stretch to play a Sadat, but yeah.
Yeah.
I just had one have you guys heard of the visual blog Information is Beautiful? So this blog deduced that 74% of the film was accurate.
Oh, that's
Which
awesome.
Is still a high number.
Which is funny because you said earlier, like, you don't want to see a movie where this movie is 75% true.
That's right.
You were right on the money on that one.
It would help me want to watch a biopic more if I knew that information.
That's true,
into it,
yeah.
honestly.
What if they just did like a point where it was like a part of the movie and they just flashed dramatization.
Yeah. Because think about it.
This scene is not real.
It's like you said, some of the things you didn't know about the Al Harrison scenes, like it impacts your perception of the movie.
Yeah.
Or again, it kind of shifts it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you still enjoy it and you will show it to your son for educational purposes, but knowing the truth versus what you saw beforehand, it does kind of shift your perception of it.
Well, I would want him to watch this and see what he did and be a pioneer, or not a pioneer.
Yeah.
Be a champion.
There's no reason that,
like that.
young, like little white kids can't look at the Al Harrison character and be inspired to carry that legacy on.
And John Glenn. And yeah. Cool.
Or even better, they see these three women and are inspired
Absolutely.
to do better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that
see their struggles.
That's a big part for me, is that I think if we really want to like have this conversation about like making a change on that, is like, as much as it's good to have like, and what this movie's about is Black excellence.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Black excellence isn't just something that only Black people can take from and celebrate.
Yeah.
White people can and that's also just say Black excellence doesn't negate that there's not white excellence, there's not Hispanic excellence, there's not like excellence is excellence, but it's good to see that it's important, I think, for people like your son, people like your girlfriend's children, like for them who probably don't interact with a bunch of kids who are different skin colors than they do.
Yeah.
Maybe for a little bit outside of school, maybe classmates, but not outside of school, not in their lives outside of school on a regular occasion. For them to see Black excellence, to see Asian excellence, to see excellence from people who don't look like them, who not just who look like them.
Education starts young.
Yeah.
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 And I've always said that, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, but I've always said that racism is taught.
Yeah.
And I was with Remy, we were watching Ghostbusters. He was 4 years old, I think. And at that age, he liked to know where the other characters were when we're watching a movie. Like if Egon wasn't in the scene, he would want to know where Egon was.
Yeah.
And he would go, "Where's the guy with the glasses? Where's..." He knew Ray's name, and he knew Peter's name.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Where's the brown one?"
Yeah.
He didn't say, "Where's the black one?" Or whatever. He just was being descriptive. And he didn't know any sort of racial slurs or anything.
Right.
And that makes me cry. Like, it made me cry when he asked.
Shout out to Ernie Hudson and Ray Parker Jr. by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
1,000%.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like you said, racism is taught.
Yeah.
Progressive thinking and Black excellence is also taught. Like you said, it can be taught to your son and whoever else that's watching these types of movies.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I that was another thing I thought of, because that was my mind as I was after I watched this movie and I was getting ready, like mentally preparing for this, and like as you can tell, it can go on these tribes and these tropes, and because I like to connect all these things where we want to talk about this movie in particular, but also like I also want people who listen to this to kind of here's some other options. Here's some other things that
this is a Black History Month series, so that's
So I'm trying to get as much as my stuff out, before who knows what I'm
never coming back.
but
Supersized episode.
But I thought I mentioned like the post I had about like the TV shows, and it was there's one thing about Black cinema, but then Black television is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And you and I were raised on when I talk to when I talk to white people about Black television, what are probably the two shows that are going to come to their mind?
Family Matters and Fresh Prince.
And what's the third one? The Cosby Show.
Oh, Cosby Show, yeah.
So they're going to talk about the Cosby Show. They're going to talk about, more than likely, they're going to talk about the Cosby Show, and they're going to talk about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
Family Matters is probably third.
Okay.
But then when you go, like, Black people don't talk about a different world. And I remember I've had someone tell me, like, they're like, well, I didn't like, I was like, because it was a story that you just couldn't, it was probably harder for you to connect with it.
Yeah.
But, like, if you watch A Different World, you realize how fucking brilliant of a show it was.
So good.
I
actually prefer that over Cosby Show.
Oh, absolutely. I would watch A Different World over the Cosby. Even though it's a spinoff.
It made me wish I was listening to a Black college.
Yeah, same here. I mean, really, Also, first season, you have a really young Marissa Tomei.
Oh, bro, yeah.
People forget that she was on the first season of A Different World. Yeah. But that was one thing, like someone had, because everybody said, what theme shows would you play? It was all Fresh Prince and Family Matters.
Yeah,
Fresh Prince and Family Matters.
Yeah.
Fresh Prince and Family Matters. And the reason is because they have no connection. Maybe some of them watch Sister, maybe some of the other ones, but it's
I
like
watch Family Matters the most out of all of
Family Matters, and that was the one thing I was thinking about. When you want to talk about Black excellence,
Steve Urkel.
Mm-hmm. Steve Urkel is
a comedian, really, really funny.
Good at basketball.
Good, but also here's the thing. Even though yes, he was annoying, even though he had a lot of characteristics that were quote unquote annoying.
Yeah.
These are the things I think I admire most about the Steve Urkel character. Steve Urkel was not afraid to be himself.
That's
Exactly.
also true. Yeah.
Even though he knew he was utterly unique as a black male in this world,
Yeah.
the fact that he loved eating cheese and sardines and he loved polka music and he was into the shit that he was into without apologizing.
Yeah, exactly.
He was unapologetic
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Steve Urkel was a good friend.
Yeah.
Loyal to the end.
He was loyal to the end. And the one part of the reason why he was such a good friend was that not only was he loyal to the end, Steve was not afraid to share his feelings about something.
That's true. Also.
So when he was hurt, when the people who loved him the most hurt him, he was not afraid to tell them how they hurt him. And then he was always willing to forgive. And those are important things that I think that a lot of them, especially as black males, that you don't get a lot as you. If you're into something different, you've got to kind of and people in general. Yeah. But Steve Urkel didn't get, like, when you talk about someone who didn't give a fuck about what people thought about him, Steve Urkel did not give a fuck.
Steve Urkel had no chill.
He had no chill,
at all.
and he did not give, the only thing about Steve Urkel is that, damn it to hell, he should have stuck with Myra. Like, first off, and Laura was bad. Don't get me wrong. I get why he was, Laura was smart. She was good, but she wasn't, Myra had everything that Laura had, and then some.
Yeah, but Laura had really big feet. Her feet were too big.
Maybe that's just. But by the way, rest in peace, Michelle Thomas.
That fact.
But that was the thing. It's like, man, here I am, man. We're talking about what we were talking about earlier. I'm not going to go into detail, but damn it, I wish I had a Myra Boutros Monkhouse coming after me.
I love it.
But that was the thing. Because that was the thing. She wasn't afraid to be herself. And it's characters like that where it's like, he was such a great character because he was the trope is he was this black nerd. But when you go and you watch Family Matters, and I see it a lot, he was loyal. He respected women. There was a tribe where they were teasing him about being a virgin and talking about the guys were talking about how Eddie had slept with a girl when he didn't. And Urkel's the one who because Urkel didn't back down. Yeah. So Urkel even knew that someone was probably going to beat the shit out of him. Right. Urkel was not a coward. He figured out ways to confront situations, and he faced them head on. Yeah. And I think the Steve Urkel character, I think, is someone we should all strive to be.
I think us three are pretty similar.
All
the things you said just now, we all do,
Yeah.
And I do consider myself to be a black nerd in certain avenues, especially, of course, with film.
I'm totally a nerd.
Yeah, so...
A black nerd, too.
You're a nerd, Uriah.
In a lot of ways, I am, yes.
I wear contacts.
I'm not as much of a cinephile as you guys are. Right. But, I have my nerd tendencies.
So you're a historian. That makes you a nerd.
You know.
So
Uriah, thank you for coming on.
Thanks
you
for
have a
guys for
podcast
doing this.
also, right?
No, so I have my Lit Tyler collective stuff where we do kind of interviews like this. I wouldn't say it's a podcast.
Well, how can people find that?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Lit Tyler Collective. You can follow me on that. Okay. We've been kind of chill the last few months. We're kind of hoping that we've kind of taken a break the last quarter. We've talked and we've met about kind of doing some things. We're really about it is we're just trying to promote. We're just trying to promote Tyler and maybe some aspects and some avenues in Tyler that maybe are outside of the mainstream.
Yeah.
I.e., things that are that heavily involve people of color in this community. So,
well, man, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you guys.
your input.
I had a blast. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get your own ride home. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Peace.